Welcome to Kmax. Now, Kmax is usually presented by Kman, and it is this week. It certainly will be. But I wanted to introduce you to Kman from my perspective as his wife, and somebody who's known him for a very long time. Because a lot of people get a little bit intimidated by the Kman because he's really smart and he's really funny, and he's a research scientist and he's a world champion, I think 27 times at the moment. He's a pretty amazing person. But the really important thing for you as a max exercise professional is that he's a really amazing person who wants to help you become a top level exercise professional. So everything that Kman does is about how can I make sure that my students, my max exercise professionals, know everything that they need to know to have the skills, tools and knowledge to be the very best that they can be. And on top of that is a man who is always positive. I've never known Kman, not in the 20 plus or nearly 30 years that I've known him, I've never known him to be negative. I've never known him to be grumpy. I've seen him angry a few times. He gets angry when people do stupid stuff, especially when they know that that's the wrong stuff to do. But he's not aggressive. Even though he's a world champion in multiple martial arts, he's not aggressive. He's just the guy that's always positive. He's a visionary. He's always looking for the best in everybody. He's looking for how to make things the best they can possibly be. And I'm going to ask him some of those really interesting questions that maybe you haven't asked him because you find him a bit intimidating. And please know that he's the most caring, loving, beautiful man who wants you to be successful. So the big part of the Max program is personal coaching. And if you want to know your anatomy and you want to know your physiology and you want to be the very best at what you do, please book in with the Kman for your personal coaching session so that you too can learn your anatomy and physiology in a way that you'll understand it and be able to explain it simply, just like he does. So, where's the Kman?
Here I am!
Kman!
Yes! Hey, Gary Rowie!
I've just been telling our max exercise professionals what a great guy you are.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad that my wife is singing praises on her husband.
Well, it's not praise, it's just the truth. But the
truth will set you free. You can handle the truth.
Well, I can.
There's a great movie, by the way. Yes.
A Few Good Men.
There is a few good men.
And
yes.
Do you think there's a lot of good men now or just a few good men? Is that a politically incorrect question?
Well, that's a good question. I think everyone has the potential to be a great person.
And that's what Kmax is about this week. Is if people could look into your life, and you've taught this for a really long time, and it's a really special thing for people to think about. If who you are, what you do, what you say, and what you think are all the same thing.
It's integrity.
So if people could actually look into your thoughts and read your mind, and that was the same as what you say and the same as what you do, then you could say then the truth will set you free because you'll feel really comfortable with yourself and you'll have integrity.
Well, you'll be at peace, won't you? You're not hiding behind any mirrors, smoking mirrors, trying to pretend who you're not, trying to, how can you say, censor what you say, because what you say, what you think, what you do is all the same thing.
So
it's a good place to be.
And that for me, I observe that every day. From when you wake up first thing in the morning to when we go to sleep very late in the evening, you are the same person every day. It's just you are Kman, that's who you are.
Well, you are.
How did that happen?
Well, you are who you are. It's a lot easier just to, to have, I guess, good values and character and just live that way, rather than trying to pretend and to be who you're not.
So
a lot of people live a life trying to please other people or live up to the external expectation of what people expect them to be, and they end up living unfortunately a fake life, and it doesn't last very long because there's always going to be cracks in the armour, particularly when you put under pressure, where the truth will come out or your real self will come out.
So I have seen you under all sorts of pressure. Everything from fighting some of the toughest, angriest, most aggressive fighters in Taekwondo.
Crazy, huh?
From all over the world.
Crazy. There's some angry ones.
I've seen you under enormous financial pressure. I've seen you under enormous business pressure. I've seen you under enormous educational pressure where you are expected to know, for example, your anatomy and physiology, which of course you do, but you handle all pressure exactly the same. How do you do that? Cool, calm, nothing seems to faze you. How do you do that?
How do I handle pressure?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's what life is. I think pressure, as the old saying goes, pressure makes diamonds. But life is always going to have pressure, and to avoid it is you can be hiding from life. And the more successful you become in whatever area you want to become successful in, the more success you are, the greater the pressure. You know, the greater the altitude, the harder it is to climb.
So do you love it? I watched you walk onto the mat in Taekwondo in a World Championship to fight really a big, tough, mean-looking person. And people say to me, do you get scared watching Kman fight? I've never, ever been scared because I've never seen you scared. I've never seen fear in your eyes. I've always seen you almost step into the pressure and love it. Do you? Well,
I love the challenge. I love the... Now, how do you get better? The only way to get better is to test yourself against adversity. And it's not like you always think, okay, this is not going to kill me. I'm not going to physically die.
That's a good thing. It's not going to kill me.
It's not going to kill me. I'm not going to come out of this.
But I've seen you in situations where you could die and you've still handled it really well.
Yes, because that situation was placed upon me, and you have no chance, you have no choice but to handle it well. Because if you don't handle it well, then it probably will kill you. You know, so sometimes you don't have a choice but to be strong, to be brave, to be courageous, and take action.
So, are you fearless, or are you courageous? So you feel the fear and you do it anyway.
Oh, look, you always feel some form of. Under pressure situations, there's always going to be anxiety, there's always going to be stress, there's always going to be pressure. But if you take all that energy and that you direct it towards the problem, not towards yourself or to a person, then you're going to find all that energy is channeled towards the right cause.
So you're always looking for a solution.
Well, I was taught a great thing a long time ago is attack the problem, not the person. And a lot of the times people attack the person being themselves, or they attacked the person being people around them rather than attacking the problem. If you attack the problem, then it takes the person out of it and you start to see it less emotionally, more logically, and you stop making silly decisions. A lot of people make long-term decisions on short-term emotion, but that emotion is sparked through fear or them not handling the situation well, not seeing for what it really is.
So what really is now is our doggy's outside barking and would like to come inside.
He's under a pressure situation.
I think we should get him.
I'll go and get him. I'll be back in the chip. Ready? Here he is. He's at the door, and magically he appeared.
And he's been in our lives for 19 years and added absolute magic to our lives, hasn't he?
He has, and that sort of adds to the topic we were talking about.
Oh, beg your pardon, he just burped at you.
He did, he burped. Dogs don't care.
No.
And ultimately, Brutus is 19 years of age, and we've had dogs all of our life. And when you look at any situation with a stressful or pressure, and it's stressful because you say it's stressful. You know, what you call it is what it becomes.
So let's start with that.
But if you look at dogs, they don't care. You can learn a lot from dogs, right? They don't care.
It just sparks when you want something.
Yeah, they eat poo, they sleep, they love, they wag their tail. And I'm not saying that you live your life as a dog, but you can learn a lot of lessons of a dog because they don't get upset about things that are out of their control. All
right, so that's what KMAX is about this week, though. We're doing this for a special reason. That you are a very unique human being who's strong, tough, you're a visionary, you're positive, you always look on the bright side.
Always look on the bright side of life. Great song.
Welcome to our house.
There you go. See, you're always looking at the positive.
But what I want is strategies for people to be able to use, because a lot of people look at you. I know because they tell me and they go, well, Kman's lucky, or I can't be like Kman because he's tough and he's a world champion and it's all too hard. So, but you didn't start out that way. How did you become the person that you are now so that you are calm under pressure, don't get stressed?
Well, that's
always positive. How did that happen?
You know, your character is built not on the easy times but the hard times. And
a few of those.
And I haven't had an easy path. I was brought up in New Guinea, a third world country. I was the dumb kid. I was the kid that was picked on. I had a major speech impediment when I came to Australia at 10 years of age, where I couldn't put two words together.
You actually stuttered
Stuttered
really badly.
Really, think of the worst stutter you can think of, and I was like that. So therefore that game made me the target of what we call bullying and criticism, and I got kept behind in school because I was that dumb. Now I'm the dumb stutterer, and I guess one of the things that helped me in that journey was martial arts. So
should we start there? Would you recommend for people to do martial arts?
Yeah, I think, of course I'm biased, because I think martial arts is an essential, because it teaches so many principles of life and respect and courtesy and hard work. But I think, martial arts, and I was a competitor, I wasn't just doing martial arts, I competed. And I think the art of competing taught me lots of lessons that, there's no place for panic when you're fighting. I always remember going on a plane with meeting an Indian businessman of all people, and we were sitting there chatting because we were the two best dressed persons.
Mr. Singh.
Mr. Singh.
Yeah, I remember
yes.
Mr. Singh.
And with the two dressed people on the plane in suit and tie, and everyone else was wearing looked like something they just came back from a hike up a mountain or something. And we were chatting, and he was a very successful business, and he says, and one of the comments he said, which is so true, he says, panic is not a part of the solution.
No.
When things are going bad.
If you were taking notes, that could be a really good thing to write down. Panic is not part of the solution.
Well, I would say when you're in an emotional state, that's not a good state to open your mouth and talk or take action. Because even if it's negative emotion or positive emotion, if it's negative emotion, you're going to say things that you're going to regret. You're going to have to eat your words, you're going to have to apologise. Mm-hmm. If it's positive emotions, you're more likely to exaggerate it, and then you're going to feel embarrassed because you said things that you didn't do, couldn't do, and eventually people say, well, he just talks more than what he...
Okay, but you've never panicked, have you? I've never seen you in a panic situation.
Never panic. I mean, I've been in situations I've been broke, I've had divorces, and divorced my life. I've experienced most of the cancer, health issues, academic issues, the dummy at school, stuttering, the person who's picked on,
and
failing.
People not liking you. That's a really... we have haters, lots of haters.
There's lots of haters. The higher you climb up the mountain of success, the more people are going to pull you down and hate you for it.
But I've seen people say really horrible things about you.
Yeah.
And you just... it's like you've never ever cared what other people thought of you.
No, because that says more about them than it does about me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I lower myself down to that, then I become them. Therefore, you stay above that. And if someone stabbing you in the back, well, they're behind you for a reason, right? They're putting you down, they're below you for a reason. So you always take the higher path, not the low path. You always, stay above all of that, the petty stuff, the petty emotional stuff, which doesn't really solve anything. It just gives you a really bad reputation.
Right. So one of the reasons that I wanted to do this today was I always use you as an example. If you were offered $1 billion to promote a dodgy, unsafe, waste of time exercise. If somebody came to you and said, look, here's a cheque for $1 billion with a B to promote sit-ups or planks as a great exercise, I know that you would turn $1 billion down. You would never be persuaded by the money. How is that is that because you know your stuff, so you don't need to compromise anything because you are completely aware of how the human body works, and you would never take me through that headspace?
Well, that's just an example of many the decisions that you have to make in life. Whether you want to do things to compromise yourself to be accepted by other people, or compromise yourself for the money, or compromise yourself for the acceptance, or compromise yourself for whatever it might be. And life is always going to give you tests to see if you truly are who you are, and if you truly believe what you believe. And the hardest person to live with in your life is yourself.
Yeah.
That is the hardest person. So it's very hard to live with a liar, with a cheat, with someone who's deceitful, who's nasty, who criticises others, who compromises their values. And that integrity to me is everything, because I live in my own head, I live in my own ocean of my own thoughts 24/7. So I'm going to be very careful of compromising myself, because then I have to live with myself. And I might be able to get away with it and get the money or get the acceptance or get the promotion or get the thing or get whatever it might be. I may get that, but in that I'm going to lose myself and my integrity and my character. And I always say there's only two things that you do in life, whether how you think or what you do, is you're either building your character or you're deteriorating your character. And
Great question.
Yeah, so what your actions, whether you say I'm going to do this and you don't do it, then that's deterioration. If you believe in this but you compromise that belief because you want something external, then that's deteriorating your character. So if you do what you say you're going to do, then that's building your character. And irrespective of what other people think, because those other people, they're not thinking about you. They're only thinking about you in a minute time frame to criticise you or adore you, whatever it might be. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're alone and you're oceaning your own thoughts, and you have to be very proud of who you are.
But what's your advice then? Because a lot of people say, or they might not even admit it, but that they do things to please other people. They live their life to be accepted by other people. But you don't live like that. You've always been, I'm going to respect me, and if nobody else likes me, well, that's okay. How do you get to that headspace so that you actually don't do anything to please other people?
Well, I think yourself? First of all, you have to understand that if you're not happy without the money, you won't be happy with the money.
I'll write that down.
If you're not happy without the fame, you're not happy with the fame. If you're not happy without the gold medal, you're not going to be happy with the gold medal. And if you look at people in the world, there are famous people who commit suicide, there are rich people who are depressed, there are successful people who have, their life is terrible, but they have that one, I guess, materialistic thing, or that acceptance where other people adore them, but they don't adore themselves. And yes, that's very superficial, but would you want that life where you have lots of money but you hate yourself? I mean, really, is that happiness? I mean, things that make you happy, acceptance doesn't make you happy, being a social media influencer, that's not going to make you happy. And many times your constant drive to get...
I want to have 100 million likes, Kman. We hear that all the time.
I mean, you're better off having no friends and loving yourself than having a million friends and hating yourself.
I'd write that down. Our house is constantly, I have to keep running to my computer to type things in because the words of wisdom keep coming out of your mouth. How do you, if you do just talk then about happiness, you're a really happy guy.
Yeah.
But not, because people go, oh, Rowie, happy. But you're not that kind of happy. You are just consistently never unhappy, never miserable, never grumpy. What makes you happy?
Well, I think I learned a long time ago when I was young is do what you love, you never have to work another day in your life. And I think that really means do what you love and you'll be happy for the rest of your life.
So you've never had a shitty job?
I never had a shitty job. Have I worked at other jobs when I was teenagers and mowing lawns and being a cleaner and a security guard? And I did when I was young at going to uni, but I also worked in the gym, and that was my goal, my passion, my love with health, fitness, and obviously helping people. And and back then, and back in the 80s when I got in this business, there was no money in it, there weren't the big gyms on that bit, but I just knew that I may never get rich, but at least I'd be happy, because I'd rather be doing what I love and being happy and not being rich.
It's a great question.
What's the question?
Well, most people are not happy. If you ask somebody, how are you, most people don't say, I'm really happy, I love my life. And you don't say that either, but I know that you're really happy and you love your life. Yeah. So what makes you happy? Top 5 things.
Well,
what's your advice?
Here's an example. Very simple. Stop doing things that don't make you happy.
Very wise.
And start doing things that do make you happy.
Yeah.
But understanding sometimes you have to do things that, I guess, lead you to that happy. You have to, it's called discipline, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want all the money, but I don't want to work for it. I want all the love, but I want to sit back and have love come to me. Nothing comes to you. You don't get what you want in life.
I want the gold medal, but I'm not prepared to do the training.
Yeah, exactly right. You don't get what you need in life. You get only one thing in life. You get what you deserve. So under all of that success, superficial success, you have to love the grind. You have to love the work. You have to love the discipline. And most people, the discipline is doing what you should do rather than what you feel like to do.
Okay, so because I'm your wife and I know this, we live in the South Island of New Zealand. It gets really cold here. you train every day.
Mm-hmm.
Rain, hail, shine, hot, cold, snowing, ice, doesn't matter.
Yep.
You train. Are there days you don't feel like training?
Of course.
Or do you focus on the outcome of the training?
Of course there's days you don't feel like training. But you just got to remind yourself why you're training. What is the destination? And I say to myself, what would a world champion do? What would a successful business person do? What would a successful me? If you know who you are and what you stand for, and you say, what would that person do?
So that's your strategy. You ask yourself, what would a champion do? What would a top-level business person do? It's a great question.
And you can go, sometimes people are more motivated than negative. What would a loser do?
That's what I say.
What would a poor person do? What would a person who doesn't win a gold medal do? And so yes, you have your, I guess there's no destination, but there's a path, there's a compass of, that's always health, fitness, helping people, sports, conditioning, all of those things which I've done in my journey. And yeah, sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do. Like I run a business and I don't get excited by the accounts, and I get excited by all the bookwork and stuff like that. But you understand that's a part. If you want the rose, you have to get your hands dirty in the soil. You say, I don't want to get my hands dirty. Well, you're not going to get the rose.
Yeah, but even when you do that stuff, because sometimes you're in your office for hours doing bookwork, and I know that that's not something that you love to do, but I've never heard you say, I hate doing this bloody bookwork.
Yeah, the sooner you start, the sooner you finish.
Yeah.
Those things you start, they'll be finished, and then you get on to do the things you do enjoy. But sometimes you have to do the things you don't enjoy so you can give you the right to do the things you do enjoy. Sometimes you have to go through a course to do the exams to get the qualification and go and do what you really want to do. But if you're going to go through that, then just enjoy it. I remember when I was at university, one of the jobs I had, I was to get up early in the morning, go change to the Brecky Creek Hotel, and I used to be the cleaner. I got promoted to glassy, promoted to security eventually because of my martial arts, but at first I'd be there with the hose and cleaning all the crap out of the hotel early in the morning. But I thought, if I have to do this, I might as well enjoy it. There's two ways you can do something. You can do it the hard way, which means be angry and upset and bitch and moan and complain, or you can do it the easy way where you just enjoy it and say, it has to be done anyway, and I'm going to enjoy it and have a good time. And so I'm there with my thing, having a great time. I was the happiest person.
Do what you love and love what you do, or both?
Sometimes you have to love what you do, even if you don't like what you do. You just do it with a smile. Sometimes you have to do things, gardening or whatever it might be, or cleaning the house. If you're going to vacuum, then vacuum with a smile, with a whistle, with a bit of music, because you have to do it anyway. Otherwise you end up living in a pigsty.
Which we don't.
Which we definitely don't. And you do the same thing. I'm sure you don't love all the cleaning and all lots of things you have to do to create a great life, but you do it because you want a great life.
Okay, so number one is that you do what you love as far as your career goes, and you've never had a job that you haven't loved. You've always had a career that you've loved.
Number one, you do what you love. Number two, learn to love the things that you don't want to do to allow you to do the things you do want to do.
Which means you'll still be happy doing the things you don't like.
Exactly right.
All right. You've got animals. We've always had animals. They make you happy?
I've always surrounded because I love animals. Not everyone's into animals, I understand that, but I love animals. I love dogs. I've always had dogs because they bring joy. And I love the simplicity and the approach to life. Yeah. It sort of reminds you of all the craziness in the world, and you come back to your dog and you go, well, heck, it's not really that important.
Yeah.
As my dog's,
Brody's 19, he's saying, what are you doing,
Mum, Dad? 19 years old. So I guess you surround yourself with reminders to put everything into perspective, that don't sweat the small stuff, because really it is all small stuff. Life is dangerous, you're not going to get out alive, so you might as well enjoy it. Enjoy the grind, enjoy the good things, enjoy the bad things, enjoy the challenging things, just enjoy everything about it.
Okay.
Because otherwise you're not going to be happy.
The next one though for Max Exercise Professionals specifically is learning. And as I always share, I came to you as a highly qualified exercise professional with 9 pieces of paper.
Yep.
And Kman starts asking me questions about why am I doing that exercise and how does it work. That was really tough for me because I didn't have any answers. You have always persisted with people to not follow the crowd, not follow the fashion, not do what everybody else is doing, but to actually learn your shit, pardon the expression. But when you know your stuff, then you can't get led down the garden path. Has that always been your headspace?
Look, I've always been a little bit of a out of the box, out of the crowd type of person. I've never wanted acceptance from a group of average people.
But it hasn't been for the sake of being on the outside.
No, because I just didn't want to be in the inside because there's nothing in there. I learned that, to be in the scene, I want to be in the scene. I've learned very early in life there's nothing in the scene. There's just a bunch of people who really know nothing who want to be in the scene, and collectively they think the scene is what is right. But you get in there and it's just like an empty box. It's an empty head. No one thinks for themselves. It's collective thinking. That's why people are so easily persuaded, and their opinion is not their opinion. It's the average of all the opinions around them. And the more people around them, the more strongly they're emotionally connected to their opinion, but they never actually have their own opinion. They don't do their own research, they don't do their own study, they don't go and learn both sides of every argument. They just know one side and they judge the other side. Where I've always been, well, if everyone's criticising that side, that's where I want to go and have a look. And I said, well, what's going on over there? Because they're obviously threatened by that side.
So from an advice point of view, to be a logical common sense, because that's very rare common sense, and that's something you have. Do you have does your headspace always go to, if that's what those people are saying, I wonder what those people are saying, and is the truth somewhere in between, or do you always think for yourself?
I always think for myself. I don't look at what the majority of people are thinking because I don't care. Because the majority of people, they're broke, they're unhappy, they don't do what they love, they don't live the life they want. If you look at the average folk, they just get into this mundane life. So therefore, I'm not going to follow
quickly
that
though,
crowd.
that's not what Kman just said then. That's not by judgment. That's by what people actually say to us.
That's just observation. I talk to enough people. How's your life? Oh, it sucks. How's your marriage? Oh, it's terrible. Yeah. How's your job? Hate my job. Oh, I'm broke. And you go, wow, And I used to think that most people knew what they were doing, but when you actually get into their heads, most people don't know what they're doing. And they're living a life not according to their dreams. They're living a life according to what other people want them to do, what is acceptable, or what the average folk does. And I think, well, that's not a life I want to live.
So would that be great advice?
Yeah, but how else to accept is when you live your life and people living other people's lives, you will become either the admiration or the criticism of those people. Because they say, who do you think you are?
Yeah, but from a learning point of view, and I'll go back to the example of somebody gave you $1 billion to promote a dodgy exercise or some kind of supplement or whatever, and you had done your research on that and you knew that wasn't effective and it wasn't safe.
Then how can I lie?
So what's your advice to people who do follow the crowd or
Don't
feel
follow.
like they need to follow the crowd? Or
Stop following, because the crowd, you're what we call a sheeple. You're better off being a lion by yourself than a sheeple with a crowd. And if you're a lion, then why do you care what the sheep think? The sheep may criticise you, the average may criticise you. If you're rich, the poor will criticise you. If you're successful, the unsuccessful will criticise you. And sometimes criticism and cynicism from people who want what you've got is the greatest compliment you can get. So sometimes it's a fuel to go, okay, well, I know I'm on the right path, because people will criticise me, but they don't even know me. They know nothing about me, but they're criticising the things I stand for, because at least I stand for something. Because if you don't stand for something, then you'll fall for anything. Unfortunately, people don't stand for anything.
But purely from a scientific point of view, because that's what we do here, we teach people to think for themselves, we don't tell people what to think, and you never have. You've always, that was my initial, to our first 5-hour conversation, was why you're doing that and how does it work, and asking me to justify what I was doing, not just I'm doing it because.
Yeah.
So from a scientific point of view, there are lots of other exercise physiologists and exercise scientists and research scientists who are still talking about dangerous, ineffective, silly exercises and exercise programs. Is that something that makes you angry, or?
When I was younger, I thought, I'm going to change the world.
Yeah.
I'm going to change the world if it kills me, and I almost did. I can't change people until they're ready for change. And when they're ready for change, then I'm going to be able to offer one option for them, a path for them to go down. However, there's many other paths they can take, and that's purely up to them. Unfortunately, they take the crowded path. They take the path because of the wrong reason. rather than the path which they see is the right path. I'm on my path. If you like it, then join me. If you don't, then that's okay.
Yeah, but that's the challenge we've got though, because a lot of people say, oh, don't do that exercise because the Max program doesn't recommend that exercise, or that's not a safe thing to do because that's not what Kman says. But that's not how this program works.
Well, it's not what I say. I mean, in terms of that, it's not. What I'm very clear of is when I offer my opinion, I say in my opinion. That means I could be wrong, right? And I've been wrong most of my life. So I said, look, in my opinion, this is probably, in my view, one of the better ways to do things. But that's my opinion based on what I know. Understand I don't know everything, so therefore it could be wrong. There could be a better way to do it. Or there's going to be, hey, based on anatomy and physiology, then this is as absolute. So there's things in life which are absolute, which is gravity. If I've got that, that's absolute, right? You can't contest that. It's black and white. I can test it instantaneously, do it a million times in front of you, and it's going to work every time. Then there's going to be things which are not so absolute. They're a little bit vague, and a lot of research is very much vague.
But anatomy's not vague.
Anatomy's not. The application of anatomy can be vague. When you apply anatomy to principles that have a delayed outcome, when there's lots of interventions in that delay that can influence the outcome, then you could start to question which is... The thing with research, people say research size or science size, which basically means nothing. Because I'm a published researcher and I'm not a high-level researcher, but what I've learned in research is you go in to do a research study, you go in there to answer one question, and what you come out with is another 20 unanswered questions. You didn't even answer the first question. So research many times is it's not absolute, and it comes out with more unanswered questions than answered. All you can do is get a collection of the research, wrap it with a lot of common sense and application, and make a decision. Because if it doesn't make common sense, it's probably nonsense, no matter what the research says. Because there's many people in the world, in times in the world where people say research and the scientists show this, and they've been wrong, and they've been wrong every step of the way. From it's physiologically impossible to break the 4-minute mile. It's physiologically impossible to run under 2 hours.
For a marathon.
We just watched that the other day.
Yeah.
But that's what all the researchers, the leading physiologists, but they were wrong. And when researchers in Spain said the world was flat, but Christopher Columbus said it was round, they were wrong. When Galileo was put under 10 years of home arrest, because he contested that maybe the Earth went around the Sun didn't go around the Earth, because that went against the research and the religious beliefs of the church, then he was put in jail. But they were wrong. So history has a reputation of being wrong a lot of the time. So
but interesting though, you as a scientist, one of the things that you often say is, I'm happy to be wrong.
Of course. It's because I'm happy to be wrong, because that says that I'm learning. I'm quite invigorated when I'm wrong. that means I learn. There's only one thing worse than being wrong than thinking you're right when you're wrong.
When you're wrong.
Particularly, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Isn't that the whole point of life, is to explore and use your imagination and find out through your lessons, as they say in
All right, but there's some nitty-gritties though that, and we talk about them every day. There are some exercises, for example, that put shearing forces across the joint, and the joint will wear away.
Yeah, I mean,
and they are. And if you did that movement pattern in a warehouse or in a construction site, you would be fined for giving people that movement.
Yeah.
But in the exercise industry, it's people just keep doing it as if it's perfectly okay.
Crazy, huh? Because it's applied to exercise, then it's now safe. If it applies to the workplace health and safety, then it's unsafe. But see, that's where people are, because they want to believe, because they're doing it, they're preaching it, and they're an expert on it. And if you're an expert on it and you've climbed up that tree, you can't get back down again.
So what's your advice to our students though? Because they're going to come across that. They're going to learn their anatomy and physiology in their Max program that says that exercise is unsafe because it puts shearing forces across the joint. And they're going to go into a gym or a personal training studio, and those exercises are going to be probably even part of the program that they're supposed to do. You've never done what somebody's told you to do. You've always been able to be strong enough to answer from your own in-depth anatomy and physiology knowledge. Is that the suggestion for our students? Please learn your stuff.
Well, always be prepared that, I always say, can you how does that work, and why are we doing this, and how does it work? Or to be able to justify it from an anatomical physiological point of view that is more as close to absolute as you can. rather than, or this just works. And people use lots of big words to justify what they're doing, but break down the big words and what they actually mean. And when they quote research, one thing I've learned when I was younger is a lot of people quote research. So I'd go and track the research down and read the research, and what they said about the research was not true, is exaggerated, or was completely misapplied, because people will, they'll cherry pick the evidence to back up their case. But a good lawyer will always also look at the opposite, the other side. So, I always say in life, when a problem comes down your path, I like to call it a challenge, because you call it a problem, it becomes a bigger problem. It becomes a challenge, it's uplifting. You say, yes, I'm going to overcome this challenge to become better. You first thing you have to do is look at it as a challenge of life, as an opportunity to get better, and this day will pass, this situation will pass, and one day I'll look back at this and laugh. So you mostly start laughing now, and then when you look at it, then get all the facts from both sides. The pros and the cons. Get the facts as if you're in the law. You look at the opposition, you get all the facts, put them on the table, and differentiate what is hearsay, and what is rumour, and what is actually truth. Put it on the table and says, okay, they're the facts. Then ask yourself, okay, what's the worst case scenario that can happen here? Accept the worst case scenario, and then differentiate what you can take action on, what you can't, and know the difference between. As I say, work out what's in control, what's not in control, and the wisdom to know the difference. Then take positive action towards solving the problem, and then get the result, and then look at it again, and then reevaluate it again. And go through
so that's your overview of everything, isn't it? Doesn't matter what comes, whether it's a fight challenge or a business challenge or a learning challenge or a building challenge. It's just, this is what's the worst case scenario.
And I have a challenge approaching, I know it's going to come up, then I prepare for it. If I have a world championship coming up, I prepare for it. I know if I go to Argentina, then I'm going to be fighting lots of Argentinians. I know if I go to England, I'm going to fight lots of English, and they're going to probably have English referees. Therefore, I know there's going to be a slight bias challenge. Therefore, I don't have to just win. I have to win convincingly. I have to be so good that they have to pick me, because it's going to be, and you've been there, there's been lots of biases, and that's just life. I don't get upset about it.
So let's take that, though, and put that into somebody's saying that you should do a certain exercise, and you think that it might not be the right exercise. What you're suggesting is that if you know your anatomy and you know your physiology and you're rock solid on your knowledge, then you don't need to go with the crowd.
Don't need to crowd. And also pick your fights. It's no use arguing with the crowd if they're just going to yell at you. Just go, okay, thank you for that, and move on. And sometimes you may not be ready. You may be dubious about it, and you go, okay, but keep it inside until you go and do your own research. And then if you need to address it or need to confront it with another person, if you need to. If you don't, sometimes it's better to be nice and be right, particularly if their ego or vanity is attached to that piece of information or their title or their position. But if it is an open, robust discussion, and they have, they put their big boys' pants on or big girls' pants on, and they can handle a good, robust debate, then you can have that and bring your evidence, be open to their evidence, and if they get emotional and start attacking you, then walk away, because they're not in an emotional state to be changed anyway, because a man who gets convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. So sometimes you have to say, well, this is a fight, but I'm not going to fight with that. I'm just going to go off and create my own path and create an option, because it's no use fighting with an idiot, because then you get two idiots arguing and they'll win every time because they've been an idiot a lot longer.
One of the reasons probably why you're really happy, because you don't bother with that stuff.
Was it Winston Churchill says, don't bark at barking dogs. They'll win every time, and they're a dog, and you're trying to pretend to be a dog.
All right, so why are you happy? Why don't you care what other people think? Why are you the person who always questions everything and listens to both sides? How did that come about? Has that been a long process? Why is Kman the man that he is today?
Well, I don't know. I think in the journey of life, I've realised that really, at the end of the day, you're alone mentally, And yes, you love to share your life with your beautiful partner and that, but ultimately, you're alone in your ocean, your own thoughts. So you really have to protect, this, because this is where life is lived. Life is about creating and magical moments and capturing them and protect it. Don't let other people ambush your mind or ambush your thoughts. And just explore life and be open to everything. Don't hold to anything for too long. If you find that, hey, this is what I believe, but then you realise that's just silly, then just get rid of it and move on to the next belief based on what you know. But what you know should always be changing. You should be growing your knowledge, growing your experience, growing your imagination. And don't get wrapped up in the small stuff, and don't get diverted from who you are. I think ultimately why I'm happy is because I know who I am, I know what I stand for. If you don't like me, I don't care, because I like me.
So the advice though for people who aren't in that headspace, because a lot of people would love to be there but they're not. How do you get there?
Well, maybe you need to get out of the noise. I mean, it's a noisy world now with social media, is that you're influenced by all these people's opinion. Everyone's just so divisive and angry at the world. But yeah, just clear yourself. Maybe you need to get away from the world going. I just think it's important to spend I spend a lot of my time. I like to
By himself.
I do my martial arts by myself, I train by myself, you know, used to do trips by myself every year, a couple of trips a year by myself, because that way you can just get away from all the noise, all the influence, all the expectations, and you can just freely think for yourself. And you find that if you think for yourself and get rid of all that influence, what your true thoughts will start to emerge over a period of time. I remember that trip when many years ago I went to the Cook Islands by myself, and I just got a hut on the beach by myself, no TV, no radio, there was no internet back then, there was nothing, I had a bike, I was sitting on a little island, and I spent a week there just by my thoughts, my own thoughts, thinking about stuff, and just let the mind run freely. And you
a lot of people can't do that though. They can't be on their own. They have to turn the music on. They have to turn the Facebook on.
There lays the problem, because you're reliant on some form of external gratification or acceptance, or some form of like on Facebook or whatever it might be. And yes, that's all nice, but it's all superficial. But if they are getting it, you should be getting it for the right reason, not for because you're showing your boobies on Facebook.
I've never seen your boobies on Facebook. That'll be my last question. We laugh a lot.
Oh, we do. We do.
We laugh every day, and not because we have to laugh today because it's the right thing to do. We just make fun of a lot of stuff. We often say that, don't we? It's better to laugh than to cry.
Well, it is, It's so true.
And do you have and my father told me this when I was a little girl, when you marry the right person, will be somebody who's really smart and really funny. Do you purposely look for funny stuff, or do you just become
I just see everything as fun. Life is, you only get one shot. You're not going to get out of life. Have a great time.
It's a terminal illness.
I think
we're all going to die.
Laughter and fun is one of the greatest emotions. I think, the greatest emotions, in my view, that you can have is love. So make sure you only hang out with people who you love.
Especially
and love
yourself.
you.
Love you.
Do not hang out with anyone who has not your best interest in mind or in their heart. Just cut them out of your life. They're a cancer, and they'll be a bad apple, and they'll rot you away. So you just have to cut them out, because there's 7 billion people in the world. You don't feel like you're better off with a small handful of people who you really love than 100,000 Instagram people, whatever you might call it, because that's just superficial and it doesn't end well. So the two emotions is love, and the first person you have to love is yourself. But you only can love yourself if you know who you are and what you stand for and what your values are.
Who are you?
And as soon as you compromise that, you won't love yourself. You start hating yourself, unconsciously, because you compromise yourself. And as I was taught a long time ago, you can only lose your integrity once, and integrity is the foundation of all your values. So number one, love and fun. I mean, just have a great time doing the vacuuming, or the great time out in the sun. If you might be gardening or things you don't want to do, just enjoy every moment of life, because one thing you have is moments are limited.
Yeah.
Your moments are limited. Your decisions are, you can make as many decisions you want. So if you don't like what you've got, then make a decision. Make a decision. And if you don't like the outcome, make a decision until you eventually get to the place where you enjoy, you're loving yourself, you're loving your life, you're loving your circle of influence, you're loving your puppies. And as soon as someone tries to infiltrate that who isn't a part of that equation, don't let them in.
Because that's one of your non-negotiable standards. You don't have any negative people
I don't
in
do
your
negative.
life. No.
I decided. I mean, people say, how can you be positive all the time? I said, well, what's the alternative?
Exactly.
One thing I do know is
he is positive all the
positive
time.
results don't come out of negative thoughts.
Yeah.
So therefore, you can change your thoughts instantly. You can change it like that. You can't change your past, but you can change what you think of the past, and you can change your thoughts instantly. The challenge is the maintenance of those positive thoughts, particularly when life starts throwing you curveballs and challenges, but you always look at, Lord, what is the positive of this? There's a silver lining in everything if you look strong enough. But if you're always the defeatist and a victim, rather than the master, then you're always going to be, in this little dark cloud underneath you.
And that's one of the beautiful things about the Kman. Your happiness is not determined by winning or things, or
No.
In fact, I've seen you the most happiest when you've got a silver medal because you love the fight so much.
I am not what I have, and I'm not what I've achieved. I am who I am, and those things are just things that I've done. And I think a lot of the reasons why I've done them is because of who I am. But whether I win or lose, it's not going to change who I am. I think being a great person is more important than being a great athlete or a great business person or great anything, just being a great person. But if you're a great person, then you're going to be a great athlete, a great partner, a great business person, a great, anything in life, whatever is important to you. Do what's important to you for the right reason.
So that's the message as a Max exercise professional, is that you can be a great exercise professional, but you need to be a great person.
And I think the starting point is to be consciously aware, and as you and I were taught in our younger days, is be very careful with your vocabulary. What you say and what you think rewires this great computer of yours, and you can rewire it. It's not raining, it's rewarding out of the sky.
It's not lockdown, it's happy home state.
People say, Jesus, overcast. I say, well, it's a sunny day every day above the clouds. It's just depending where you work. This is not a problem, this is an opportunity. And as I've been through...
It's a magical day today.
Yeah, we've been through big business challenges, but sometimes it's an opportunity to reset and start again. And sometimes, hey, this relationship didn't end well. And I always remember chatting to an old friend of mine, and I hadn't seen her for many years. And I said, how are you? She said, I'm just going through a divorce. And she was all, Rosalie, her name was, and she was all upset. And I was going, wow, congratulations, isn't that fantastic? She said, well, what do you mean? Because everyone's giving her empathy and sorrow and sympathy and all sorts of stuff. I said, congratulations. She said, well, one of you weren't happy.
Yeah, exactly.
And A, if you're unhappy, then you're out, congratulations. B, he was unhappy, which means you would want to be with someone who's not unhappy with you. And what a great opportunity now to find your soulmate. So congratulations, that's the best news that could ever happen. Because the worst thing that could have happened was that you stayed there for the wrong reasons.
So happiness is not something that you get from the outside, it's something you develop on the inside.
Of course, it's an internal thing, isn't it? And
so how about just choose to be happy, and then maybe the rest of your life will come along nicely?
Well, don't wait to be happy, or don't wait for other people to make you happy, or things or achievements to make you happy. Just be happy. And if you just be happy, then happy things will tend to happen.
Sounds like a song.
Let's
finish. Be happy, be happy, be happy, be happy. Woohoo!